Greetings from Crossroads Church in Aransas Pass, Texas. As humans, we have breath, life, willpower, emotions, good days, bad days, strengths, and yes, sometimes weaknesses. But no matter where you are in life, the highs and lows, or how much progress is being made, we encourage you to take some time with us in watching this next video. Take care.
Well, I'm really proud of the men that we have in our church. What an awesome group of guys. I think we need to give a big round of applause for all of our singers that were up here this morning. I told the ladies this morning, I told Latrice, I said, y'all have been replaced. I don't even, if we try to bring the ladies back up on the platform, we'll just get a lot of boos. Boo. I think their jobs, they have, Victoria and Latrice have job security. We're not putting anybody out of business out here, but I appreciate these guys because it's not something that they do all the time. And so, guys, great job. And now I get to follow James and JJ and their testimonies. Thanks, guys. I really wanted y'all to bomb, so I didn't have any pressure on me. Fantastic job, guys. Very, very proud of you. And big round of applause for Randall, our men's guy. He put this all together and spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we're just thankful for Randall's leadership with our men's group. And it is great to see each one of you. I've been blessed to have known a lot of the men of this church for years, and I know what some of you are thinking. I hope when they do that memorial thing next year, the pastor's picture will be up there. You need to calm yourself down. That was very rude of you. That's fine with me because I'll be chilling with Jesus, and y'all will still be stuck in Aransas Pass, or even worse, Ingleside. So, but we are so thankful for all of our guys that step up, and whenever I need them, they're there, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it tremendously. So today is Father's Day, and we're thankful for all of our fathers. I was blessed with, my dad was something else. When I was little, my dad, I was pretty little when my dad came to Christ, although he was raised in church. And he was a policeman in San Antonio. We grew up in San Antonio, and he was a policeman there, and he was full-blooded German. And what are Germans known for? Starting world wars. So, I mean, that's basically the mentality, the mindset of German people. And so my mom's side, I take after my mom's side. My mom's side, they were so hillbilly, they embarrassed the rednecks. That was my mom's side. Now, it was my mom's father's side. They were very well educated, very refined and all that. But my mom's side, I went to one family reunion and I said, these people make Duck Dynasty seem like intellectuals. Mom, I don't even like this part of your family, which, okay, that wasn't the heart of Jesus, but it was true. So, but my dad's side of the family, they were German people, and wasn't a lot of hugging to this day. I'm not really comfortable hugging people. The only time I really like to hug people is when I know they're not a hugger. Then I will go up and grab them and hug them. I don't know, it's a weird thing. But so I'm not a big hugger. My mom's side was, my dad wasn't. There was, we never heard, I love you. But we just knew because they didn't throw us out of the house. So we knew that they loved us. We just had to put that connection together. But, and my dad, boy, he had a temper. How many of y'all have a temper? Anybody here have a temper? Acknowledging it is your first step. My dad, boy, he had a temper. And we just knew, boy, if he come home when he was having a bad day, we knew just to stay out of his way because somebody was going to get a beat down. But thankfully, my two older brothers were constantly in trouble, so they got a lot more beatings than I did. But they were so bad by the time I got that age, my dad was tired. He just didn't have time to beat. And plus, I was a really, really wonderful, wonderful child. So there was that too. But the thing that I appreciate the most, my dad was pastor here for 29 years, and I've been temporary pastor here for 17. I was supposed to be temporary, and here we are. I don't know when y'all are going to wise up, but here I am, and we're just going to party until Jesus comes back. But I remember my dad, you could not be more different in personality than my dad and me. Just totally, as I said, I took after my mom's crazy side. And I remember I worked here, and I've had every position in this church except for women's ministry leader. There's not enough money on this planet to get me to try to take that. Because I guarantee you, after about the second meeting, the ladies would have me, there'd be a beat down, because I would just be picking on them all the time. So I was super involved in this church, and my dad used to tell me all the time, he said, son, why can't you be more spiritual? Yeah, Dad, that's just not going to happen. But he was a great guy, and I appreciate the fact that even though he was tough sometimes, he was full-blooded German, he was a cop, he was used to dealing with people, seeing them at their worst, and so it took him a while to start to develop a little bit of a softer side, to kind of chill just a little bit as a pastor. So people weren't quite used to somebody being so plain spoken and so abrupt. Now everybody just have to soft pedal everything and ask for permission to, and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't like that back in the day. So we're all thankful for our great fathers. I read a book many years ago by David Wilkerson. So if you've ever heard of Teen Challenge is the most successful drug rehab program in the world, because it is a Christ-centered program. And the success rate, the last time, it's been a few years back, they did this, they did some research, and this was a government, it wasn't Teen Challenge, a government team of researchers went, and they were looking at drug rehab programs, and a lot of the secular programs, they might have 5, 10%, 20% would be extremely successful. Teen Challenge at the time had 86% success rate for these kids that would come through. Not just kids, it was Teen Challenge, but now and we usually have them once a year. Guys, there's a Teen Challenge Center in around the Kingsville area, and before that we'd have them come down from San Antonio and just hear these incredible stories of men and women that God had changed their life, and they were free from drugs and living very successful lives. David Wilkerson started Teen Challenge, and he went to New York City back in the 60s, was dealing with a lot of gang members. There's a movie, and I forgot what it's called, Cross and Switchblade, thank you. So Cross and Switchblade, you probably could still find it somewhere, may be able to find on YouTube, and it's a movie. It was a feature-length movie they made back in the 70s, and it was actually in theaters and such. I think it did fairly well. But it was a story of David Wilkerson going to Teen Challenge, began to work with these young men that were on the streets, and drug addicts, gang members, murderers, just name it. He was working with them. But one of the things I remember about this book that I read is when they had these young guys that were coming into the Teen Challenge Center and they were teaching them Scripture, they found out that a lot of these young men could not pray the Lord's Prayer. And the thing that they stumbled over is the very beginning when Jesus taught us to pray, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name." And most of these young men that were in gangs, that had been arrested, had prison records, had turned to a life of crime, most of them could not identify the word Father with somebody that treated them well. Many of them, their biological father was nowhere in the picture, and for many times their moms would just have just like a revolving door of men that would come in that would be like a father figure, but would be very abusive. Didn't care about these young men, and so that's why a lot of them just left home. It was abusive situations, so they had to teach these young men to pray, "Our friend that's in heaven." That's not exactly totally accurate to the Bible, but that's as close as they could get, because in their concept, their idea of a father was really, really bad. So thinking about, well, where's a great picture of a father in the Bible? And so very quickly I thought again of one of my favorite stories that Jesus told in Luke chapter 15. We're going to read parts of this story, get through this. How many of you know last Sunday I preached way too long? You knew that, right? How many of you just like, what in the world is he going to tell us everything he knows? So I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter today. Can I get an amen there? Oh, y'all want me to go? Let's go, man. Let's go. Turn to somebody and say, "We're going." Not sure where we're going, but we're going to go. No, I'm going to keep it short. I don't know why I lie in church. Anyway, Luke chapter 15. Jesus tells this amazing story. One of my favorite stories. Luke chapter 15, verse 11. And Jesus said, "And there was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' and he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all that he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. So the implication of this story is this was a very wealthy family. There's no mention of a mom in the story. So if this is a true story, perhaps she had passed away or something had happened, but she was not in the picture. So it was just this father and two sons. And the youngest son comes to his dad and says, "Dad, I'd like to get my split of your estate because I want to go out and find myself." Right? That's the implication. I want to go discover. I want to go find out what life is all about. I don't know about you guys, but oh gosh, I had a birthday a few days ago, and I turned 38 this year. Thank you. 38 times 2. Yeah, literally 38 times. No. Yeah, sometime. Anyway, I can't do math right now. It's just too much pressure. It's just too much pressure. You're all staring at me. I can't do the math. But I just remember, even though now I'm considered a senior citizen, I remember what it was like to be in my 20s. And what a difficult age that was. Because you're just trying to figure out stuff. I feel a lot of compassion for these young kids, and we're talking basically at the college age. High school years were tough too, but you get into those young adult years, and especially if you're raised in church, you tend to want to question things. Because a lot of times what happens when you're in church, if you're in church long enough, you find that rules are applied, and yet you don't experience the love on the other hand. If your faith, your religious faith, your religious experience doesn't cause you to love people, you're not doing it right. Yes, we understand there was 10 commandments. That's the reason. That's, when Moses had a headache, God gave him 2 tablets, right? And so those 2 tablets, that was the 10 commandments. So the Bible is full of commandments, but yet God not only gives us his law, but he gives us his love and his presence to live within us, to help us live. Why did y'all laugh more when Lynn did it? Because he did. His delivery was much better. I should leave it to the professionals. But when we are young like that, we tend to question a lot of things, and we tend to make mistakes. And so as a parent, and this I think this applies for you moms also, but as a father, I would often think of Proverbs chapter 22:6. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Solomon didn't say he would never depart from it. He said, but as he gets older, he'll come back. That was his. So now Solomon had a lot of wives. Solomon had 1,000 wives. I have no idea how many children he had, but he knew stuff, right? And he said, if you raise up a child in the way, that's the hope that we have, that when we raise up our kids, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to question things, and they'll sometimes maybe they won't follow the example we've tried to lead them in. But yeah, we have to understand that's just part of the process. When a child gets in their 20s, they're going to question, they're going to test some things. But this father, I want to look at him for just a moment. I know a lot of times when this story is, when you develop this story like in a sermon or Bible study or whatever, the topic is the prodigal son. And he's, obviously figures prominently there. But I want to talk about the father for a minute. And we'll talk about what it means to be a real man of God. My father was a great man, but he wasn't perfect. If Victoria would come up here, and Victoria, what was your dad like? She would not be able to talk for weeping at all of the amazing qualities that her dad had. Just, my dad was, and she would just, Kyle would have to come get her off of the... But what does it mean? What does it mean to be a man of God? To be a great husband and a great father? Well, it's one thing to try to tell my kids, well, you should do this. It's another thing to try to demonstrate it. That was one thing about my dad. I will tell you, he was not always the poster child for grace. He was not always the most sympathetic person because of his upbringing, because of his profession, his earlier profession. He was a little rough around the edges in his younger years, but then obviously as God works in our lives, he helps us to change and be the things that God wants us to be. But think about being a great husband or a great father. And so it's the example. And I want to talk to you guys for just a minute this morning about how to be a great father. And I can really sum it up in one simple little concept. To be a great father, you need to demonstrate to your kids how they're supposed to treat their mate by how you treat their mom. That's it. That's number one right there. If I could only leave you with one thing, it's how, because every young man will learn what it means to be a husband and a father by how they see their dad treat their mom. And that son will become, and they say, now, I got 2 older boys, they're not married. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're crazy. But they're both up in Dallas. My two daughters, beautiful young ladies, and gosh, Victoria did great. She married Kyle. If I was going to pick a son-in-law, it'd be him. My younger daughter married another guy. He's all right. Mistake is Vanessa married him after Victoria married Kyle. So, but they say that a lot of times that the daughter will pick out a husband. Kyle is so awesome, so that's exactly what she did. I set the bar so high, she had to search high and low, never did online dating, anything like that. It was just almost like God showed up with this man of God and said, this is as close as we can get to your dad. That's how I remember it. I don't know that it was exactly like that. And here's, like my sons, I have to admit, I was much more protective, and I was much more protective of my daughters than I was, because I just know how guys, we never talked about this much, but I remember we would go places. I literally had to go to the airport one time, and I had my daughters, and my son was flying in. He was in Montana. He was in the Air Force. He was flying in. He had this little girlfriend here. So I took my daughters and his little girlfriend, and I let their mother come along. I had this guy, listen, literally, I had this guy walk up to me. We were in one of those stores at the airport, and he saw all these beautiful young ladies with me, and he walked up to me and said, "Hey, who are those? Who are those ladies?" I said, "What are you talking?" I guess he thought they were important or something. I don't know. It was. He wasn't being creepy or weird about it because he's still alive. But he was just saying. He said, "Who are these?" I said, "Oh, well, that's those two. Those two are my daughters, and that one over there is my son's girlfriend, and that other one we don't even talk about her. But those are so." And I remember we would go places, and this happened a couple of times. Now I'm not a very physically intimidating guy, obviously, but I remember we would go a couple of places, and I would see guys staring at my daughters. And I would look at them, and I would catch their eye, and I'd go, "You said, well, you're not very big." It don't matter. Everybody here's packing heat. You know what I'm saying? I'm a pastor. Look, I'm a pastor. I know where the bodies are buried. You know why? Because I do funerals, so I know where the bodies are buried. So, I mean, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Your daughter, it don't matter. It don't matter. So, but even more important than staring somebody down, guys, this is what's important. Your daughter will learn how she's supposed to be treated by how they see you treat their mom. And if you're abusive and you're loud and you're disrespectful, that young lady will tend. Now, she may break the cycle. She may go a different direction. Hopefully she does, because none of us are perfect fathers, right? None of us are perfect. So don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. We're not trying to put that on anybody, that you got to be perfect. But what I'm simply saying is, I always wanted my daughters, and here's what I would tell all of you parents. Now, from being here on this planet a very, very long time, I can tell you this: one of the most absolute outside of your faith. So, James, Lynn, awesome job with JJ, getting him in church and living the example. That's number one. One of the most important things you can do as a parent is to instill confidence in your child. Find some way, support them in something, build confidence. Don't wake them up every morning screaming at them and hollering at them and always pointing out all the things they do wrong. Duh, I mean, they're kids. And look, there are times that, as a parent, you kind of lose it, and that's okay. That's okay. You have permission to do that. Always try to build. I always wanted my daughter to have such confidence that when that loser that came with a bone stuck through his nose and a piercing through his eyelid and had no future for a life because of the choices he was making, just loser, Then my daughter said, yeah, no, I'm not better than you. I'm not better than you. But I wanted them to have confidence. I want them to have confidence. And I mean, look, I know the styles are what they are today and such. And I'm not really talking about those personal styles. But you know what I'm saying? The young guys that would go to prey on young women because they just didn't have confidence. So now this young man's he's taken what his dad gave him, verse 14. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. And so he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. Here he is, this young man, came from wealth, and at one time had tremendous wealth himself, but he went and the Bible says that he wasted it on reckless living. It's interesting how that as long as he had daddy's money, he was the center of attention. As long as he was footing the bill, he was the center of attention. But now the money was gone, and now the Bible says that no one gave him anything. And for us, and I'm talking about like when I was younger, one of the things that we have to learn is that there are definitely consequences to our actions. And so he had made the choice. I'm going to go. I'm going to party. I'm going to be a wild child. He did all that, and then he finds himself when famine came. Then all of a sudden he is just at rock bottom, and now he's literally feeding pigs. I don't know if have you ever been around pigs? Have you ever been around slop? My first job, I worked at a ranch supply, family-owned hardware and ranch supply store in San Antonio, and I worked in the ranch supply. We had a lot of ranchers, a lot of farmers come in there. It's a lot of ranches, farms around that area, as it is all over Texas. And there was this one old guy. He used to come up in a pickup truck. I don't know how it was running. He'd come up in a pickup truck. That thing was sold, had a camper shell on it, and he carried 2 or 3 of his favorite hogs with him everywhere he went, I think. And he'd come in there and buy feed. And I remember one time he had a 55-gallon drum full of slop. It's been stewing in the back of that pickup truck with a camper shell on it and good old San Antonio 105 heat. And he wanted me to stick my face in there with those filthy hogs and that slop and throw his feed in there. Well, I did it, but I did it quick. I'm telling you, those are some smelly, smelly animals. Now, I love them because that bacon sure tastes good, but I like them after they're bacon, not before. And this young man finds himself now he's feeding pigs. But he has consequences. But not only did he face the consequences, and yet now we see it's like there's a change here in the story. Verse 17, but he came to himself and said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, and I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. Even though this guy had messed up, he had made some bad decisions, now you see when he really hit rock bottom, now he's really comes to a very wise conclusion. Because, sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we make bad decisions, but deep down inside, you have a good heart, right? And you want to do the right thing, but you just messed up. It's actually a really good sign of good parenting that when he messed up, he realized that he could go home. And it's important for you to understand that you're not defined. Don't allow yourself to be defined by your mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes along the way. In fact, all have sinned. What does all mean? Wow, you guys are really good. What does all mean? All. I got the answer, Pastor. All. That's exactly what I would have come up with too. All have sinned. Every one of us. We've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So we all have messed up. So being a Christian doesn't mean that you didn't mess up. Being a Christian means you know how to ask for forgiveness. And you just, the only difference between a believer and unbeliever is the unbeliever gives up. The believer just keeps on and asking for forgiveness. Look, I haven't been perfect all my life. How many of you used to party back in the 80s? Anybody here partied back then? You have to be a little bit older to be partying. If you were partying in the 70s, you're on Medicare right now. But if you were in the 80s, you remember, 80s was actually a crazy time. So I was kind of aging into that time in the 80s when I was in my 20s, and I went out in the world. I wanted to check. I wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to check it out. And then later, as I came back in church, I'd have people, I know what you were doing out there. I said, yeah, Bulletin, I know what I was doing out there too. I'm going to tell on you. Don't have to. I'll tell everybody what I was doing. It's not a big deal. But you were out there. Yeah, I was out there. Well, I'm sure your life was miserable. No, I was actually having a pretty good time. My life was not miserable. I didn't come back to Christ. Oh, your life must have fallen apart. My life didn't fall apart. Not at all. But there was something inside of me. There was something gnawing on the inside. There was something that was missing. That all the partying. Now, I will say I'm glad there was no phones with cameras in it back in the 80s. I will say that. Because it's my word against your word. You can't prove it. And I got married in 1985. You got nothing on me since then. But before that, am I ashamed of that? Well, maybe it was not my proudest moment, but I'm just telling you that the mistakes that I made and that I willfully made, not blaming anybody, not blaming the devil. I went out there, I partied, saw it wasn't what I wanted. There was absolutely nothing out there that I wanted. I'll tell you a story. Just so you know, I'm not. This is one of the reasons why I came back to church. But I'm not saying this because I'm bragging about this or trying to glamorize that lifestyle, because it was leaving me very, very empty. That was how I would describe it. I remember being in a club, and over in Rockport, very, very classy, high-class place. A lot of rich, young, preppy kids were over there, and I was meeting a lot of young ladies and all that kind of stuff, and I thought I could dance like Michael Jackson. I'm probably sharing way too much, aren't I? But I'm not. Look, it just happened, right? It just happened. And I remember sitting one time off to the side and knew a lot of people, and we were having a good time, and it's like one of those things, get home about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, be at work at 6. Woo, I couldn't do that now. And I did that for a while, but I remember sitting by the dance floor, and all these pretty girls were flirting with me and all that kind of stuff. And so, but it was my ministry, people. I was over there. These beautiful women needed somebody to tell them about Jesus, although I wasn't really telling anybody about Jesus. But I remember, in all seriousness though, sitting there, and the music was loud and surrounded by people who were laughing and having a great time, as the world can have. And I remember hearing this voice. It was so distinct. It was so real. It's not audible. God doesn't speak to me like an audible voice, but it was a voice that was so real that it literally just caught my attention, and I was fixed on this voice that was telling me, "What are you doing here? I have something better for you." It was so clear. It wasn't guilt. All right, dude, I'm sending you to hell. You were raised in church. You know better than this. You just really won't see Jesus use shame one time. The only time Jesus ever had trouble with was religious leaders. And you kind of got the impression they were getting on his nerves because he called them vipers, full of dead men's bones, snakes, So I was there, but there was something inside of me that I knew that there was a higher calling for my life. And you can feel it when you haven't found your purpose, when you haven't found your why in life. A lot of times you will fill it with pleasures, because you're looking for something. And I was looking for something, and I finally realized that what I was looking for was what I was raised in all along. So am I ashamed of those days? Am I embarrassed? Not really. Not really. And for a small amount of money, I'll tell you everything that went on back then if you really need to know. Because I'm not ashamed of it. Because for me, what it represents is not what I was doing, but it represents the grace of God. And the fact that no matter what you do, no matter where you go, you can always come home. This young man, this is such a sign of good parenting, in spite of the fact he had messed up time after time after time. He realized, man, I could go back to my father's house. And he initially thought, I'll just go back and beg to be a servant. I just want to go back to be a servant and just say, Father, I have sinned. Let me close with this, verse 20. And he arose and came to his father. So he finally realized he had to take action. He arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. Boy, what does that indicate to you? While he was a long way off, his father saw him. His father had been waiting for him that entire time. Because the enemy will make you think, dude, you've messed up too much. You were partying in the 80s, which by far was the coolest decade. I'm sorry. It was seriously, seriously cool. Sir? Okay. Can y'all control him? His father was a long way off, and he saw him. And he felt compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. Jesus told us this story not only to tell us that there was a second chance for the prodigal son. He wanted us to understand that this was like our Father is like. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter how many mistakes you made, you can always come back to your Father. And when you come back to him, it's not going to be guilt and shame. Well, you should know it. You should have known better. Or why did you do that? Or guilt or shame or condemnation. I mean, this father took his son, just the fact that he came home. And he acknowledged, said, Father, I've sinned. I'm not blaming anybody else. I sinned. And his father came and took him, gave him his best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, shoes on his feet, said, bring the fatted calf. Understand, listen, Jesus told the story. He didn't say, bring a salad with kale. All you vegans out there, you're not scriptural. You're not biblical. Jesus said, bring the fatted calf. Because he knew at some point, 2,000 years later, we're going to be eating Texas barbecue. So eat your barbecue. What do they call them? Statins or whatever. Take those. But here's what the father said. When his son came home, instead of rubbing it in his face, instead of using guilt and condemnation and put him down, the Bible says he just has this celebration. He said, bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate. Jesus told the story about the lost sheep. And he said, the good shepherd will leave the 99 that are safe. They're safe. They're right there where they need to be, right there with the shepherd. But he realized there's one that's lost. And that shepherd leaves the 99 that are safe. And he goes, you say, I'm thankful. Like I could say, I'm thankful I love Jesus, but I'm more thankful he loved me. Somebody said, oh, I found Jesus. No, you didn't. He found you. You're like that lost sheep. I was like that lost sheep back in the 80s. I was like that lost sheep again. And he went and he found me right in the middle of a dance club with all these really cool people hanging out. It wasn't a dump. It wasn't a dive. It was a really, really nice place. It was high-class sinning, people. It was high-class sinning. He went and he found me there. And he spoke. I'll never forget that. What are you doing here? I've got something better for you. I will never forget that. That sentence is just in my brain. And I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel condemnation. I realized it was my Father calling me home. So wherever you've been, whatever you've done, doesn't matter. Don't let your mistakes define you. Don't worry about your past. You don't live there anymore. You can just find forgiveness and grace. And Jesus said when that good shepherd goes and he finds that lost sheep, he finds them, he brings them back. And Jesus said that the angels in heaven rejoice over that one lost sheep. They don't rejoice over the 99 because they're good. They're in the sheepfold. They're there in the pen. They're safe. They're secure. But the angels in heaven rejoice because that one lost sheep, that one lost soul comes home. So when we come to Christ, maybe it's your first time. Like me, I went away for a little bit. Was my life horrible? No, it wasn't horrible. My life didn't fall apart. But I didn't like the person I was becoming. There was something missing. And I'm so thankful. I hadn't been in that life in years. And no, I didn't get into drugs and I wasn't getting arrested or whatever because I never got caught. But it just wasn't like that. What are you acting like that for? The only difference between us and them is you and I didn't get caught, people. Quit acting like you didn't ever do anything in your life. I might have sinned, but you are more sinners than I am. Can I get a good amen here? Look, wherever you find yourself, your Father's calling you home today. And the angels will rejoice. So I'll tell you what, bow your heads with me here for just a moment. I know this is Father's Day, and we want to honor our fathers. Just as a reminder, guys, there's a little something on the back table. Grab that as a cup or something. You can take that.